Hello, everybody. Welcome back to my Psychology of Art class. My name is Satwika, and in this video, I will be presenting about one theoretical approach to art, that is psychoanalysis. Even though this theory received many critics nowadays because its lack of scientific approach, but it is still very much interesting in analyzing art. So this lecture will be mainly talk about two approaches of psychoanalysis. The first part is we'll be discussing about Freud's theory and continuing by Jung theory in the second part. So let's begin by refreshing our knowledge about Freud's model of the mind, which I believe that each of you has learned this over and over again through your past classes in psychology, right? But let's just briefly remembering the concept of mind by Freud, which consists of three layers, including the id, the ego, and superego. So it here basically is the pleasure principle. It is our deepest desire, our libido, the primitive and instinctual part of our mind that actually contains sexual and aggressive drives and hidden memories. Yeah, and it consists of the life or the sex instinct, which is eros, yeah, and also the aggressive or death instinct or the thanatos. So the id here, it remains infantile, yeah, in its function throughout the person's life, and it does not change with time or experience, as it is not in touch with the external world. So the id is not affected by reality, not affected by logic or the everyday world, yeah, as it operates within the unconscious part of our mind. And the next level is the ego, which is the reality principle. So the ego here develops to mediate between the unrealistic id that is hidden inside us and the external real world. So it is actually like the decision-making component of personality. Yeah, so ideally the ego works by reason, whereas the id here is like more chaotic and unreasonable. And besides controlling it, ego here act as a mediator between it and the superego. And the superego incorporates values and morals of society, which are learned from our parents, from our society and others, yeah, and it developed around the age of 3 to 5 years during the phallic stage of psychosexual development. And its function is to control its impulses, especially those which forbid by the society, such as the sex or aggression. Yeah, and it is also has the function of persuading the ego to turn to moralistic goals rather than simply realistic ones, and to strive for perfection. And so is the relation between Freud and art? Then that's the question. Long story short, Freud is a fan of art. Yeah, he loved paintings, and he also conducted several analyses of art. Yeah, two of his famous books about art are the Leonardo da Vinci and A Memory of His Childhood, and The Moses of Michelangelo. So based on psychoanalysis that underlined repression, instinctive desires, defense mechanism, libido, and etc., Freud assessed art and creativity as a product of psychopathology, and it's derived from unresolved conflict inside us. So according to Freud, creativity is the sublimation of our sexual desires, yeah. Moreover, art is a fantasy object, yeah, that created consciously by the artist, but it is represent our deepest meaning, yeah, and rooted from the deepest psyche of the artist, which contains the unresolved conflicts and buried sexual desires. And here's like the example of Freud's psychoanalysis of Leonardo da Vinci's painting. using the psychoanalysis theory, of course. So the paintings that he analyzed was the Madonna and Child with Saint Anne. Yeah, and Freud here analyzed the painting to reveal Da Vinci's personality. So Freud thought that based on the in his painting, Leonardo da Vinci has two mothers, and he also prematurely stimulated sexually by his mother because there was no father figure. And through his painting, Freud also considered the lack of heterosexual tendency in Da Vinci, and there was also narcissistic tendency in Leonardo da Vinci. Impressive, right? And as you might already know, that in psychoanalysis, defense mechanisms are the psychological strategies that are unconsciously used to protect a person from anxiety arising from unacceptable thoughts or our feelings, right? And according to psychoanalysis, there are several defense mechanisms such as repression, denial, projection, displacement, regression, and sublimation. What we will discuss here related to art is the sublimation as defense mechanism. So sublimation is a defense mechanism that is used to satisfy an impulse, for example, aggression, with a substitute object. So that substitute object will allow our desires to be acceptable in our society. So in arts, our instinctive impulses such as libido or aggression or our sexual desires will be sublimated into art creation. So the repressed libido could be in the form of dream, hope, traumatic experience, anxiety, fear, ambition, and etc. And one of painting genre that manifests the sublimation concept of psychoanalysis is the Surrealism, where the libido manifests into symbols in art forms. So Surrealism is a genre that characterized by unreal or dreamy object which distorted in reality. Yeah, it is also absurd, but it is also symbolic. It has like deep meaning inside the picture or the painting. So although some people may think it's like odd or unrealistic kind of paintings, but the art form here display aesthetic in which acceptable in social life. And moving further to another famous defense mechanism concept of psychoanalysis is the regression. And art here reflected this regression concept in the art making process. So in psychoanalytic exploration in art by Ernest Chris, he developed the theory of creative process that composed in two phases. Yeah, each of these phases involved a shift in the psychic level and a corresponding shift in the cathexis of certain ego function. So the first stage is the inspirational phase, which the artist is mainly passively receptive to its impulses. At the first part. And it's almost the same like regression process where its impulses and drive taken over, otherwise hidden and unavailable. It's an urge to communicate with the ego. And the artist experiences rapture and a feeling of being driven by powerful external forces in this stage. Yeah. And then continuing that is the elaborational phase, which this process characterized by active use of ego function as reality testing, also ego function as formulation and communication. Yeah, it is too passively receptive. The egos is now actively elaborated, shaped, and reorganized, edited, and communicated to others. So the inspirational phase, the first stage here, donates the content to an artwork, whereas the elaboration phase here is primarily responsible for the transformation of that content into communicable form. So there's also like a term called like psychotic arts that is a serve as a primarily restitutive function rather than a communicative one. Yeah, it's more like a regression part of it. And psychotic art is too solipsistic to speak directly to an audience and does not ordinarily presuppose communication. So that's why it's called as a psychotic art that only stuck in this inspirational phase rather than moving forward to the elaborational phase. And then we're moving forward to Jung's psychic framework, yeah, in which he proposed parts of psyche that including conscious. Yeah, it is everything that we are conscious of. Yeah, and the ego is the organizer of the conscious layer. Yeah, here in the consciousness, persona is the social mask that we wear in the society. Yeah, it is like the outer forms or image that we identify with. And then there's also personal unconscious, that is everything that is not conscious, such as things that we forget, experiences we've had, things that we do not want to remember, things that we are too uncomfortable to remember. And it can be influenced and brought to consciousness by the context of our situation. But then, different from Freud concept, Jung also has the concept of the collective unconscious. It is something that we all share, yeah. And it's so the individual participates in it, yeah, but it belongs to everyone. So idea that it is innate, genetically encoded is a part of what it means to be human, just like we all share, like basic body features, physiology, and etc. Yeah, it's like the realm of inborn possibility of ideas. And it contains of archetypes that we'll be discussing more later. And based on Jung belief that human instinct are universal facts of human existence, those humans actually share common patterns of instinctual organization, which then stored at the unconscious, collective unconscious. All right, so here are some differences between Freud and Jung in viewing unconscious. So Freud here sees unconscious as repression, yeah, and conflict, yeah, while Jung here see unconsciousness as possibilities. And both of them also discussing about dreams as an important aspect of psychoanalysis, but in different ways, of course. According to Jung, dream here is the mirror of conflict that are suppressed and desire that is unsatisfied, while Jung here sees dream as the container of solution for the soul. And also Freud and Jung both talk about symbols, but in different ways. According to Freud, symbol had a particular meanings that were interpreted by the analyst or the psychologist, yeah. But then Jung here mentioned that symbols that is appear in the client's dream or artworks there were assigned meaning by the dreamer or the artist, not by the analyst or the psychologist. And an important concept from Jungian psychology is that self-realization is the goal of healthy mental states, yeah? And realizing ourselves will need times, and the process begin around midlife. Like what have been said before, that one of the most important concepts from Jungian psychology is the collective unconscious, yeah, in which described as unconscious mind that shared by all of humanity. So it is kind of like a universal version of personal unconscious, but it also holding mental pattern or memory traces, which are shared with others because it's like genetically. genetically written inside of each human, yeah? An example of collective unconscious experience, according to Jung, is kind of like a deja vu, or our immediate connection with symbol, image, a place or person, yeah? It's like that meeting a person one time and you feel like you know him or her for the whole of your life. It also consists of experiences in the mystical or religious experiences that shared around the world that has the same pattern, yeah. And also a collective unconscious can be found in the shared creative experience by artists around the world. Also the love at the first sight or the sense of soul connection between human to human. And you believe that the collective unconscious is expressed through universal concepts called the archetypes. So the archetypes here can be signs, symbol, or pattern of thinking and behaving that are inherited from our ancestor. So we can see archetypes manifest in many cultural forms such as myth, fairy tales, religions, artwork, as well as represented in our active fantasy and dreams. So there are many forms of archetype and each of them were connected to each other. Yeah, and all the archetypes here works together in individuals functioning, which each of the archetypes serve particular function to the individuals. So let's check some of the archetype proposed by Jung that can be seen in many cultural forms and our patterns of behavior. So the first one is the persona or the image that we present to the society. So every day we wear our persona, quotes and quotes, to act in our society, right? And our persona can change to time and place based on what we need to present in front of other people. So common masks that we might wear every day, for example, like the artist. Sometimes we act as a rebel. Sometimes we act as a healer. For example, if you're a psychologist, sometimes we act as a teacher, act as a scholar, as a sister, or as a brother, as a son or daughter, and etc. Right? And the next archetype is the shadow. So this is an archetype that consists of the sex and life instinct. So the shadow here exists as part of the unconscious mind, yeah, and is composed of repressed ideas, our weaknesses, our desires, our instinct, and shortcomings, yeah. And the shadows here form out of our attempt to adapt to cultural norms and expectation. So Jung also referred to the shadow archetype as the it, yeah, when compared to Freud, and believed that it represented an unconscious aspect of the personality in which the conscious ego does not identify in itself, or otherwise was the entirety of the individual's unconsciousness. In short, the shadow here is the unknown or the dark side of individual's personality. So one interesting quote from Jung explained how important is to bring our shadow into awareness, yeah, by realizing our repressed things such as our flaws, our weaknesses, our instinct, etc., yeah, and bring them into consciousness. That is when we start to be enlightened. And another archetype is the Enema and Animus. So basically, Enema Animus here relates to our inner or soul life, yeah. Represent the true self, yeah, rather than the image we present to others. So these archetypal image are based upon both what is found in the collective and personal unconsciousness, yeah. So basically it's the masculine archetypes in woman and vice versa, the feminine side of the man. And the next one is the great mother archetypes. So according to Jungian psychoanalysis, the great mother archetypes here symbolizes creativity, the birth, the fertility, sexual union, and nurturing. So she is also a creative force, not only for life, but also for art and ideas, yeah. But then every positive or creative forces, there must be an opposing or the destructive one. So the dark twin of sister of the great mother is the terrible mother, or the a force of death and destruction. Yeah. The great mother may also devour or neglect the offspring. So then it's called as a destruction. And the next archetype, yeah, the child archetype is one of the most familiar archetypes in all cultures. So we have all had a childhood memories, right? And so the child archetypes here is something which is integral to everyone's nature to a greater or lesser degree. And the archetypal child's positive qualities are those of innocence, playfulness, authenticity, spontaneity, creativity, vibrance, energy. Yeah. Also the innocence of the child can provide with a healthy psyche. Yeah, living free of many stresses and strains of life. However, the child here can also be prone to naivety, ignorance, and stubbornness, sulkiness, moodiness, or overdependence on those around them. And the next archetype is the hero. It's about all about rising to the challenge, and is instinctively seeks to protect and inspire other. Yeah, the hero here often must make through decisions and things on his feet. Yeah. It usually like fighting or called to right, wrong, or both. And hero usually begins as ordinary person, yeah, who takes a fantastic journey and suffer and tested and has like supernatural power. And they also experience transformation, yeah, and then become a hero. And in the end, they will go home and change and then matured and individuated. And the next archetype is a wise old man who represent wisdom and higher states of consciousness. It is also symbolized profound experience, growth, and potential. It can be personified as father, grandfather, teacher, philosopher, or priest. And the next archetype is a trickster, is the wise fool. Yeah. It appears in the midst of many different cultures. Yeah, trickster can be cunning or foolish or both. The trickster here openly question, disrupt, or mock the authority. Yeah, they often like breaking rules, posting and playing tricks on both humans and God. But interestingly, trickster here turns things upside down, so he will change our perspective and offer a new solution in society. And the last one is the self, is an archetype that represents the unified unconsciousness and consciousness of an individual. So the self here is a wholeness and integration. And Jung often represented the self as a circle, as a square or mandala. And creating the self occurs through a process known as individuation in Jungian psychology, yeah, in which the various aspects of personality are integrated as the self. So the self is the last point on the route to self-realization of individuation. So there are much more archetypes can be found around us in art forms, in symbol in movies, in cultural myths, in religion symbol, in which, according to human psychology, represent our collective unconsciousness. So further, like Freud, Jung also underlined the importance of dreams and interpretation of dreams. So according to Jung, archetypes, all those archetypes I've explained before, are manifest themselves in our dreams. And by analyzing our dreams, we might find things about ourselves that we are not realizing it before. And Jung believed that dreams reflect a process that works to express our intuitive feelings, our ideas, and something that is unknown inside us. So by make meaning from symbols appear in dreams, in our imagination, or in our art creation, according to Jung, will provide resolution of our inner conflict. And symbols also important here for Jungian psychology because it appears in our dreams in many art forms and etc., which has multiple meanings and can evoke new ideas and responses. So by analyzing symbols that commonly appears to ourselves, it will help us to reconcile our conflict and facilitate our growth. Some of common symbols that we found manifested in our everyday life in cultural form, in dreams such as water, bowl, jug, night sky, sun, moon, and etc. It also appears as a symbolic meaning from our body movement, color we use, musical sound, and etc. So Jung underlined creativity as an important aspect of psychological growth. To Jung, creativity is a mystery and it is in a close relation with the archetypes. Jung believes that creativity is the unconscious animation of the archetypes. So artists translates archetypes that innate insight into art creation that consists of language, images, sound, etc. And here, art contains and also holds and gives form to the projection of the archetypes. So through art, we can see the traces of our collective unconscious. And according to Jung, great art goes beyond the personality and personal concern of the artist, but it is revealing the collective unconsciousness. So artists are meritorious in bringing the hidden archetypes into consciousness and help society to realizing the unconscious aspect of ourselves. And Jungian techniques, ways of contacting one's unconscious, can be done by some of these ways, including active imagination, dream analysis, and art. So let's learn further about active imagination. So active imagination is one technique used in Jungian psychology that try to visualize unconscious issue, which the images reveals in our dreams. So these techniques will raise awareness to our unconscious. Thus will bring various aspects of our psyche together. So how active imagination then can be done? So it may take place through writing, through music, through dance, sculptures, drawing, play, and other art forms. All right, so we will do this experiential using active imagination in the class at the first place. Also the experiential of drawing the mandala in the second place. All right, so thank you guys for your attention. And this is the end of this video. And I'll see you soon in the class. Bye.